Sometimes it's not the loud declarations or vision boards that change a life, but a quiet, persistent thought that refuses to leave. I remember a moment, not dramatic, not cinematic, just a quiet afternoon where everything subtly shifted. A project I'd put off for years suddenly felt urgent. Not because something outside me changed, but because inside, a phrase kept echoing. What if it's possible? That single thought repeated quietly in my chest, not like a command, but like a whisper from a deeper place, and with it came movement. Emails sent, calls made, new people showing up, doors I hadn't noticed before. In cognitive science, there's a phenomenon called thought-action fusion. It describes how certain thoughts, especially the ones tied to fear or desire, begin to influence how we behave without us even noticing. They create micro-shifts, choices, momentum. You don't need to believe in magic for this to be real. You're already living it. And if I told you that the real law of attraction doesn't live out there in the universe, but in the invisible patterns of your thinking, repeated daily, almost unconsciously, that maybe it's not what you want that shapes your future, but what you habitually expect. So today, we begin a journey to uncover not just what you're thinking, but what your thoughts are doing to your energy, your emotions, and your entire reality. You've heard it everywhere. Thoughts become things. It sounds empowering, but it's also misleading. If every thought became reality, we'd be drowning in chaos. Science tells us we have around 60,000 thoughts per day, but only a small fraction of them, the repetitive, emotionally charged ones, truly shape who we become. This is where the myth gets dangerous. It suggests that thinking something once is enough, that you can simply visualize and wait. But your life doesn't respond to occasional thoughts. It responds to the frequencies you reinforce day after day. A study on dominant emotions and perception shows that our mental filters are shaped by emotional repetition. You don't attract what you think. You attract what your nervous system believes is familiar. This is why repeating positive affirmations doesn't always work. Because if your inner narrative is soaked in fear, lack, or self-doubt, the outer world will mirror that tone, not your words. So here's your first practice. For 1 week, take 5 minutes each night and write down the top 3 thoughts that repeated in your mind that day. Were they loving or anxious, expansive or contracting? Then gently ask, is this a frequency I wish to keep feeding? This isn't about controlling thoughts. It's about recognizing your inner weather and learning how to shift the climate. A thought may start a spark, but it's the emotion behind it that turns it into fire. Well-Mind published research showing that it's not isolated thoughts that shape our vibration. It's the emotional tone we live in, moment to moment. Emotion is the magnetic field of the mind. You can think of abundance all day, but if underneath your body is holding fear, tension, or grief, your energy will transmit lack, not desire. This is why we must stop trying to think our way into healing and start feeling our way into alignment. The body is the instrument. Emotion is the music. A practice to try right now. Somatic breathing for emotional realignment. Close your eyes. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 2, and exhale for 6. As you breathe, feel your body imagining a moment of peace already lived, not hoped for. Notice how your muscles soften, how your breath slows, how your mind begins to mirror the peace your body remembers. This is the emotional rehearsal that neuroscientist Amanda Sachs teaches, to feel the success before it arrives, to anchor the new emotion in the nervous system, not as a fantasy, but as a felt experience. Because you don't attract what you want, you attract what your energy already knows how to hold. Here's something few in the manifestation world want to admit. Not everything that enters your life is a divine signal. Sometimes it's just your brain playing tricks through what science calls confirmation bias. You start believing that something will happen, And suddenly you notice it everywhere, not because you've magnetized it, but because your mind is now filtering reality to find what it expects. There's also selection bias, where you interpret events in a way that supports your current belief. If you think love never works out for you, every awkward date becomes proof. If you believe you're always lucky, even delays feel like divine timing. Manifestation isn't magic, it's the complex dance between your beliefs, your perception, and the choices you make daily. In attraction psychology, there's the law of similarity. We're drawn to people who reflect our energy, beliefs, and patterns. So when you attract someone, it may not be destiny, it may be your unconscious seeking what it already knows. Here's the gentle truth. You're not attracting everything. You're also selecting, interpreting, and reinforcing. Realignment. Practice. Environmental awareness. This week, observe your environment. Who do you follow online? What conversations repeat around you? Which habits keep looping? Then ask, is this ecosystem feeding my vision or just reflecting my past self? Manifestation becomes powerful when it's conscious. When you realize you don't just attract, you design. There's a silent wound hiding behind many spiritual teachings. One that whispers, if you suffered, it's because you attracted it. Some call it karmic debt, others energetic alignment. But for many survivors of trauma, abuse, or deep depression, this idea doesn't heal, it hurts. Reconnected Life brought this to light. When someone internalizes the message that they created their own pain, it can breed toxic guilt, a belief that they're spiritually broken or unworthy. And here's the danger. Instead of liberating people, the law of attraction becomes a tool of shame. But pain doesn't mean you failed. Depression isn't spiritual weakness. Not every trauma is a lesson you chose. Some were just unjust. The real path to healing isn't denial, it's compassionate acceptance. It's learning to sit with your sorrow without blaming your soul. A sacred practice, somatic compassion. Place your hand over your heart, breathe slowly, and say quietly, even this pain has a place. Even this moment is worthy of love. Let the body feel your gentleness, not to bypass what happened, but to let your nervous system know you are not the enemy of your own life. This is the shift. From attracting pain to embracing healing, from blaming the self to becoming the soul's ally. Let's clear the fog. Not everything labeled energy or quantum is grounded in truth. There's a fine line between spiritual empowerment and spiritual fantasy. While social media often promises instant miracles through quantum jumps or vibrational portals, the true power of your mind is far more beautifully human and backed by science. Neuroscience reveals something deeper. When you visualize with clarity, when you reframe your inner story, your brain rewires. This is not magic, it's called neuroplasticity, the self-determination. Theory explains that when we feel competent, autonomous, and purposeful, we naturally activate our potential. And the Galatea effect shows us when we truly believe in our capacity, we perform better. Because belief activates behavior, so yes, your thoughts matter, but not in the way you were told, not as spells, but as instructions to your nervous system. Practical ritual, the micro goal method. Every morning, write one micro goal for the day. Something simple, but aligned with your deeper intention. Then at night, reflect. Did I honor this? What did I learn? This builds self-trust. And when your mind trusts your soul, that's when real transformation begins. You don't need more secrets. You need consistency, clarity, and compassion applied daily. This is science. This is spirituality with roots. So let's breathe this in together. Not everything you think will manifest, but everything you repeatedly think, it in with feeling, with belief, with aligned action, which shapes your inner field. We've unmasked 5 illusions: that thinking alone is enough, that emotions don't matter, that attraction is universal, not filtered, that pain means you failed, that at all Spirituality is science. Each of these myths has quietly shaped our lives, but now you know the deeper rhythm. The true law of attraction begins not in the stars, but in the space between your thoughts, in the gentle union of thought, emotion, action, repeated with intention and grace. And so here's your invitation, the 7-day alignment challenge. Each morning, set one clear thought you want to embody. Throughout the day, pause and breathe into how it feels in your body. At night, write one line about how you honored it, or where fear still spoke louder, not to perform, but to rebuild the trust between you and your higher self, because the unbreakable law isn't out there. It lives in your choices, your presence, and the quiet moments when you choose to believe again. Even when no one else sees, even when it hurts, even when the past still echoes. The law is not the universe bending to your will. It's you realigning with the quiet power that was always within.